Hi everyone. Sorry if you're surprised to see someone who very clearly isn't Marcos. I'm someone who's very new to the team here. My name is Mako, and from now on, I'm going to be a co-host and writer for some of the Ultraman content on this channel. After Marcos asked me to help out with the Legacy of Shin Ultraman script, the next big project that I was assigned to work on was this: an overview of Tokusatsu distribution in the West. It's a bit of a mess, so let's try to break it down in a way that at least makes a little bit more sense. So, how are the big three players contending? Let's start off with Toei and their flagship Toku IP, Kamen Rider. Across both digital and physical media, 6 series and 3 movies have been released. Shed Factory has the 1971 original show, Kuga, Ryuki, and 01 available for streaming, all fully subbed in English. As far as putting out starting points for new fans, going with the first 3 shows of each era was definitely a sensible choice here. The Amemiya trilogy, consisting of Shin Kamen Rider Prologue, Zero, and J, are available on Toei's Tokusatsu World YouTube channel, and are planned for a physical release by Media Blasters. Additionally, Discotek has released both Kamen Rider Black and Black RX as Blu-ray sets. Agito and Faiz are also available on Amazon's Toku HD service, but aren't without their significant caveats. We'll get to those later. The toys are a different story entirely, but in a good way. Out of the 36 Rider series and 3 movies, 23 have their toys available for sale in the US, mostly through Bluefin. While these aren't full toy lineups that include DX belts, it's nice that Americans can get CSM belts for a lot of these shows. And arguably, the area that Toei is doing the best in terms of international distribution has to be their music. Everything from openings, endings, and even some insert songs for nearly every Rider and Sentai series across all 3 eras are available on major streaming platforms like Spotify. Some shows, like the recently released Kamen Rider Black Sun, even have their full soundtrack streamable. Genuine props to Toei here. They're definitely leading the pack compared to a lot of other entertainment companies in Japan. So before we go really into detail about all the things that Toei could be doing better, let's at least try to be fair to them and talk about the things that are more or less out of their control. Ever since Tsuburaya started simulcasting Ultraman on their YouTube channel in 2016, a lot of fans have been clamoring for Toei to do the same for both Rider and Sentai. Unfortunately, in Rider's case, some pretty messy copyright issues are what's getting in the way of that. Taka from Kotetsu Toys put out a great video a while back talking about some of these issues. But the gist is that the rights for Rider in its current state are split up across Toei, Ishinomori Productions, and TV Asahi. TV Asahi, having a vested interest in keeping their own viewership up, likely wouldn't approve of concurrent Rider shows being released on YouTube for free, while they also have the same show on their premium streaming service, Terasa. These factors make simulcast a very difficult and very unlikely prospect for Rider, at least from Toei's end. Now then, let's talk about some of the areas that Toei could really be improving in. There's a lot to talk about here. In contrast to both Sentai and Ultraman, when it comes to Rider, there isn't really an individual company that Toei partners with for distributing the entire Kamen Rider franchise in the West. And that's really the main issue at hand here. While Sentai has Hasbro and Ultraman has Mill Creek, the copyright for each individual Rider show is licensed out on a per-season basis, leading to multiple companies buying up the rights for different seasons. A while back, Toku created a thread detailing the massive hurdles that Toei sets for licensors that want to distribute Rider shows. Beyond the rights for each show being prohibitively expensive on their own, licensors are expected to fund all advertising and merchandising out of pocket, without any direct support from Toei. All of this effectively means that any company intending to buy up the rights to a Rider season, especially a recent or current one, has to also contend with taking a major loss on their investment. And that leads us to our ongoing issue of disjointed distribution in the West. Remember how 4 separate companies already own the rights to different Rider shows? With how Toei's licensing strategy goes, that number could go up even more if we just wanted more Showa, Heisei, and Reiwa shows available. With each show costing millions to license, no single company is going to want to cover all the cost of distribution unless it's for seasons with expected high returns, like Kuga or Zero One. On top of this, the disjointed nature of the international rights of rider shows means that the quality ends up being less consistent across different licensors. As far as Toei's in-house efforts with online distribution go, their go-to method is their YouTube channel, Toei Tokusatsu World. This is Toei's main platform that they upload all the international promotional material for their tokusatsu content. And they've got a pretty wide selection, ranging from mainstays like Rider and Sentai to more niche offerings like Soulbrain and Windspectre. The catch here is that for each series, only the first 2 episodes are uploaded and subtitled in English. This begs the question: if these episodes are intended to get new viewers invested in rider shows, or frankly any toku shows that they upload onto the channel, how are those same viewers supposed to watch the full series? To be fair to Toei, this kind of model at least makes sense on their Japanese channel, Toei Tokusatsu Official. But that's mainly because all the shows that they're promoting on their Japanese channel are also very easily accessible both digitally and physically in Japan. Given that most of these shows were uploaded over 2 years ago to their international channel with no follow-up, it's pretty difficult to see this as anything but a relatively non-committal move without any long-term plans. So, how do Toei's partner companies fare with this? To their credit, the shows distributed by Shat Factory and Discotek show off some really promising results. The rips that they've received from Toei are seemingly pretty good quality, especially in Black and Black RX's case, where they can show off that visual clarity on the Blu-rays better. And the subtitle quality seems pretty consistent, with positive feedback to show for it. So, that leaves us with the elephant in the room: Toku HD. Upon their initial launch on the platform, both Agito and Faiz lacked English subtitles. In Agito's case, this was for every episode after 25, and in Faiz's case, this was the entire season. Negative reviews from 2020 and 2021 all cite these as some of the main criticisms of both series. English subtitles were added to both series 5 to 6 months after launch, but these were still heavily criticized by reviewers for their poor quality, even being called below Google Translate quality by one particularly disgruntled reviewer. As of the writing of this video, these subtitles have not been fixed. They're riddled with grammatical errors, misspelled words, and mistranslated phrases. As for the reason these subs haven't been fixed after 2 years, we'll get back to that in a bit. So, in a situation like this, who exactly would Western Rider fans be expected to turn to resolve these issues? Especially given Toei isn't really known for having the most direct means of communicating with their international audiences. This brings us to Team Rider, recently rebranded as Team Kamen Rider, the main PR, marketing, and communications liaison for Rider in the West. They would handle community outreach through surveys and live streams, gauging interest in what kind of toys were in highest demand or which shows were the most popular. Team Kamen Rider is also, incidentally, who fans were expected to go to in the event that there were any issues with Western releases. So, naturally, this extended to problems like the Toku HD subs as well. By May 10th, 2021, Team Rider had received so many complaints from fans about the state of subtitles on Toku HD that they issued a statement where they mentioned notifying Toei about the issue and reviewed the subs themselves. It's possible that this is what led to Faiz receiving subtitles from episode 25 onwards, but the issue of subtitle quality has yet to be addressed. It's difficult to say if the fault lies with Team Rider or Toei themselves, but in any case, the lack of communication between the two and the lack of action taken doesn't really reflect well on either side. This statement also opened up a huge can of worms for Team Rider, mainly the use of the global Satsu hashtag. Team Rider's own Twitter bio says that their area of focus in expanding Rider is in the United States. And apparently, that's meant to be taken very literally. If you've been watching so far and thought that the state of Rider distribution in America was lacking, well, it's almost non-existent in Europe and Australia. While it's true that the initial episodes of different shows uploaded to Toei's Tokusatsu World YouTube channel are available internationally, the other digital options are much, much less consistent. Despite having the largest selection of Rider shows available to stream, the entire catalog of seasons on Shout Factory is region-locked and can't be accessed from outside of North America without a VPN. On top of this, Shout Factory's physical media also can't be imported from outside of the US or Canada. This leaves European and Australian fans with the option of ordering from secondhand sellers or paying import fees, neither of which ultimately end up contributing to Toei's bottom line in any way. And to round out all of these issues, recently Toei announced a partnership with Fathom Events to screen Shin Kamen Rider in English. Okay, so far, seems pretty good. Right? Like with a lot of things so far, there is, of course, a major caveat to this. Toei's idea of a Western release amounted to Shin Kamen Rider being shown exclusively in American theaters on May 31st, which, by the way, is a Wednesday night. Fans in Canada, the UK, and Australia were completely out of luck. According to one customer service exchange, this is due to Fathom Events, the company that Toei partnered with, only having the rights to screen the movie in the United States. Okay, so just wanted to put a bit of a disclaimer and an apology on my part here. This video's been cooking for a really, really long time. There's still some info that isn't really covered in this video. Most recently, as of the time of this recording, Shin Kamen Rider was confirmed for an Amazon Prime release. Great news, but couldn't really put that into the script. So just wanted to say sorry about that. Thank you so much for being patient about this video. Thank you for understanding. And regardless of everything, still really hope you guys enjoy it. Now that we've got a clear idea on what's lacking in terms of distribution efforts, let's take a look at some examples that Toei could be learning from. Where do we start? It all comes back to copyright. Yes, it's true that Toei is not the sole owner of Kamen Rider as a franchise. This, of course, makes prospects like simulcasting really difficult for them, and that's completely understandable. One thing that Toei absolutely can and should change, though, is how they sell the rights to Kamen Rider shows internationally. This current model of selling rights to licensors on a per-show basis is needlessly restrictive, costly, and inefficient. It's worth noting that the alternative model of selling off entire franchise rights doesn't necessarily guarantee better results, as is the case with Hasbro and Sentai, which we'll be getting to in a bit. But one company that seemed to mostly get it right has been Tsuburaya Productions. Despite the decades of legal woes that they've faced regarding the international distribution rights to Ultraman, Tsuburaya has really been putting their best foot forward when it comes to handling this. By the time they were able to make headway in their very long legal battle against Chayo in 2018, Ultraman already had two companies in the US in charge of its distribution, those being Shout Factory and Mill Creek. Since 2019, a year after winning a Ninth Circuit court case for the rights, Tsuburaya has been in charge of steadily releasing their Ultra shows through both companies, with Shout Factory handling streaming and Mill Creek being put in charge of the physical releases. For the most part, these efforts have been largely successful and well received. Key word here being mostly. While Tsuburaya is definitely leading the pack out of the big three in terms of distribution, it doesn't necessarily mean they're above criticism either. Mill Creek's releases of specific shows, like The Ultraman with Ultraman Jonius, Gridman, and Ultraman Nexus, have subtitles from our favorite company, Toku HD. And given what we've already seen with the Rider subtitles from them, you can probably guess what the quality control is like for those already. That being said, keeping the distribution limited to two companies has made it so that almost every single show in the franchise now has a Western release, regardless of how popular or financially viable the individual seasons might be on their own. Mill Creek has done a pretty solid job at communicating their long-term plans with the Western community as well. And they've been sticking closely to the outline that Keith Eichen posted in the Sci-Fi Japan Facebook group in 2020. Tsuburaya themselves also do a pretty great job when it comes to global community outreach. Beyond the handful of YouTube channels that they have uploading current Ultra shows in multiple languages, they also regularly promote their English content on their Ultraman Global Twitter account and the Ultraman Connection website. Ultraman Connection is the primary information and marketing hub that Tsuburaya created for their English-speaking audience. As of now, it mainly serves as their news site, where articles are published regularly on cast reveals, trailer drops, or promotional events. The site even occasionally hosts live streams for new releases like Ultra Galaxy Fight and Shin Ultraman. While the content offerings are on the more limited side, it seems like UC is intended more as a supplement to their YouTube channel and other online offerings instead of a full-on replacement for it. This level of transparency really should be the standard that other companies are held to when it comes to the distribution of their shows. It's just unfortunate that this is the exception and not the rule as of now. And unlike with Kamen Rider, Tsuburaya Productions isn't restricted by their partner network to simulcast their current series online, but Ultraman Z as well. It's worth noting that Tsuburaya isn't new to English-dubbed Ultra content, seeing as they've been experimenting with various approaches to this as far back as 1967 with the original Ultraman. They've also been consistently dubbing their Ultra Galaxy Fight series in-house using mostly Japan-based English actors since 2019.
You're after me? Legendary power. You mean Legend and Saga? You leave me no choice.
And to top all of this off, Tsuburaya announced on April 21st that their upcoming 2023 series, Ultraman Blazar, would be released online with an English dub. While some of the quality control issues with their physical releases are absolutely worth criticizing, it's clear that Tsuburaya is going all in on their Western distribution fronts, especially when it comes to concurrent content. Ironically enough, we can see what this approach would look like through one of Toei's other flagship Toku franchises, Super Sentai. In contrast to how Rider as a franchise is handled, the distribution of Sentai in the West has been considerably less convoluted, both for better and for worse. As of 2018 onwards, Hasbro purchased the rights to Power Rangers, which included a partnership with Toei that was inherited from Saban Brands. As a result, Hasbro has been responsible for the distribution of Super Sentai in North America for the past few years. So, how have they been doing so far? When the acquisition first happened, not well at all. Saban's partnership with Toei in 2014 enabled them to start releasing Sentai seasons on DVD through Shout Factory, and this deal produced some pretty promising results, with several Showa and Heisei seasons, starting with Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, being released over the next few years. When Hasbro inherited the rights to Sentai distribution in 2018, they stopped the release of English Sentai distribution entirely, resulting in a 4-year content drought. While there's been some speculation as to the reasons for why this was, there's yet to be any official word from Hasbro on why this content drought happened in the first place. It wasn't until the 2022 release of Chikyu Sentai 5-Man that the DVD sales resumed under Hasbro. With the combined works of the two companies, the available Sentai library stands at 15 in DVDs and 13 available for streaming on Shout Factory. So in terms of the current situation, things seem to be back on track, and Sentai fans have a solid selection to choose from. There are, however, some caveats to this. Fans have pointed out certain releases have quality control issues on them, such as 5-Man being restricted to closed captioning only, or Zyuranger having timing issues with the subtitles. Following the release of the Deca Ranger DVD in February of 2023, similarities between the official subtitles and fansubber Burn to Delta subs were brought to light. Beyond multiple lines being translated with similar wording, the official release used proprietary terminology that had been created by Burn to Delta, leading to speculation that a new, possibly less experienced company had been contracted by Shout to handle the subtitles compared to previous releases. It is very much worth noting that Burn to Delta has specifically mentioned that they do not want this to become drama and do not want people to contact Shout on behalf of them. This information is just being mentioned here for the sake of creating an accurate record of events. Overall, while the quality control issues on both the distribution of Sentai and Ultraman shouldn't be ignored or excused, they both represent important examples of how a unified distribution effort can lead to greater output. While the content drought that Sentai fans endured shows the potential drawbacks to such an approach, the end result has shown to be more effective than the comparatively decentralized approach that Toei has taken with Rider. Recently, Toei ended up confirming a lot of speculation about their Western distribution efforts through their 2023 New Wave presentation, a yearly report that outlines a lot of their business goals and strategies. Two very important pieces of distribution information were made clear from this presentation. First, Toei considers their live-action content, which includes Tokusatsu, to be a secondary priority for global distribution, with their animation IPs, like One Piece and Dragon Ball, taking up the forefront of their efforts instead. On top of this, Toei specifically differentiates their distribution efforts between Asian and Latin American countries versus the English-speaking world, with their Tokusatsu content not being shown as a priority for the latter. On the bright side, at least Latin America is considered a primary target, so, good for you guys. These aren't exactly shocking revelations for many Western Toku fans, but they do clearly outline Toei's reasonings for their limited release strategies. These points reinforce a mentality from Toei that was first revealed in an interview from July 25th, 2022 on Futo PI. Riku Sanjo, the head screenwriter for Futo PI, was quoted as saying, "Animation is strong because you can export it overseas without altering anything," alluding to the reasoning behind the prioritization of animation distribution over live-action content. The last thing we'll be going over is Toei's ventures into expanded media. This is effectively everything that isn't a part of their main TV shows or movies. In other words, mostly reading material. Titan Comics is the company that Toei's chosen to partner with in this regard, and they've been responsible for publishing the Kamen Rider 01 comics and the English version of the 2014 Kamen Rider Kuga manga. While certainly ambitious, these two have their own sets of issues that are really worth going into detail about. And, from someone with much, much stronger opinions than me,